taking that example and moving it forward a little bit, what we've done here is added logical operators. Remember, the logical operators are or, and, and, which I know is an English mistake for verbal, but it is true. So the two additional pieces we have here are the logical or, which is here on line 38, and the logical and, which is here on line 66. Remember that in order for an and condition to be true, both sides of the logical operator have to be true. So on line number 66, the only way we get the fail message and the probation fail message is if both on probation and class failure are true. In the or operation, either side of the or has to evaluate as true for the entire statement to be true. So the way we're going to use this is we're going to check for a probation entry, right? So what we're going to do is say right here on line 38, we're going to check if the user entered, and I do have it running over here, if the user enters a capital Y or a capital, or I mean a lowercase rather, y. So anything else will evaluate to false. So if I can put in an n here, that's how that works. So we'll run through everything here and we'll see. So I'm just going to stick to my failing grade. I haven't changed any of the logic here for A, B, C, or D. So we know that those work the way that they are supposed to. So I'm going to put in my failing grade here. And it says, is the student on academic probation? Now, I know this isn't going to work, and I'm going to say N because, look, is N a capital Y or a lowercase y? No. So that whole statement, this whole statement here, from line 37 to 48 is going to evaluate is false. So on probation will not be true. So I go ahead and click on this, and what do we see here is a mistake. And this mistake is actually because of the way I have my or statement declared here on line 38. The reason I do this is because I know students think that there's kind of this transverse property here, where if I have on probation on the left-hand side of my or statement, that the compiler automatically assumes it will also be on the right-hand side of my or statement. That is not true. And this is going to be one of those mistakes that like 45% of you are going to run into on, you know, the end of chapter exercises here, and still probably 35% of you when we get to the challenge questions at the end. And that's because we assume too much of what C++ is willing to guess for us. For this statement to evaluate properly, what we need is on line 38, if probation, or on probation rather, entry equals capital Y, or on probation entry equals lowercase y. So that's the only thing here that I have changed. I'm going to run this again. I'm going to put my value in again, but this time around when I put in no, remember, I could put in a Q, I could put in a 7, I could put in whatever here, and as long as it's not uppercase Y or lowercase y, this statement between 38 and 48 are going to evaluate as false. So my grade is an F. I'm sorry, but you will have to repeat the class. Now, that's exactly what I expected. I did not indicate that there was an academic probation issue. So this time around, I'm going to earn the same grade, 52, but this time around, I've got a lowercase y as my entry. So yes, on probation is going to evaluate as true. And there we have the secondary line. Ooh, now you gone and did it. So that's what we would expect there. Just to run it one more time, there's my grade of 52. I've got my capital Y this time, and the output there is the same. So the three things to remember here about the and the or operator. For an and operation to evaluate as true, both halves of the and have to evaluate as true. For an or statement to evaluate as true, either the left or the right hand side of the operand has to evaluate as true. That can be tricky for you as a developer. That can lead to more errors because that leads to more conditions being true, which is hard sometimes to discover when you go back and do bug tracking for why is it that all these conditions are being let through. The other thing to know here is there's no like associative property here for how it is that C++ assumes your and your or are working. If I have on the left-hand side of the operand on probation entry, that's pointing at a variable with a value, I need to have the same, if I'm testing the same, which I could test different ones, but I'm testing the same variable with a different value here. And actually, you can see I'm doing that here in my and statement on line 66 as well. I'm checking for class failure on the left-hand side of the operand, and I'm checking for on probation on the right-hand side of the operand. So I can look for two different conditions to be true, or I can look for two different entry values to be true on the same variable.